So here it is, the next chapter of our adventure. We have just left Thailand, and you know me, I say never, but this should be for the last time because we're off to Sumatra, and that's exactly where we're going right now. Early start. We have northeasterlies at the moment around anything between sort of 7 and 10 to 12 knots, I suppose, true. So it means that we were running downwind when we left, but we've managed to get it off the hind quarter now, which is much more comfortable. And look at this, flat sea state. The weather for the next few days is good. It's about 220 miles to Palau We, which is the island on the very north of Sumatra, and that's the port town of Sabang on Palau We, and that's where we're going to be checking in. So it should take anything between sort of 50 and 60 hours, I suppose. And what else is there to say other than goodbye Thailand, hello open oceans.
So this is it, it's been 2 years in the planning and we're now starting our adventure east. So leaving Thailand on our way to Sumatra, the first stop. This year we've got about a 2,000 mile sail to do. We'll be going almost all the way round Sumatra, following down the west coast and then over to Jakarta and then all the way up through lots and lots of Indonesian islands until we get to... Yes, you're looking forward to it. Until we get to Tioman, and we'll play around there for a bit, go to some of the islands we haven't seen, and then go across to Borneo, and that's around about 2,000 miles, and will take around about 6 months. So this is it. We're starting, we're on our way. Very, very exciting, isn't it, Millie? She is exciting.
Well, happy to report that the wind has picked up. We've got about 15 knots true, and it's coming off our hind port quarter, which is great. So on a broad reach. So we've just got the Yankee out. I do also have the mizzen out as well, but I've kind of pulled it in, sheeted it in just to keep it tight because it was being thrown around a little. It just helps stabilise the boat somewhat. It's about, I don't know, the swell's not that big at all really. 1/2 a metre, a few breaking waves. Just crests really, so it's all good. There's a few fishing flags out here. There's a fishing boat behaving rather erratically, which is perfectly normal. Doing the rounds. Not much other traffic otherwise, apart from one tugboat whose destination is Bangladesh. There we go. That's Liz lashing down the jerry cans, which is something I didn't get around to doing. Figured they wouldn't be too much of a problem. But just wanted to show you this very strange phenomenon. We've just been through one of these and we've got another one approaching. So you can see the general state of the sea now. Very few crests on the waves now. And yet there's a whole line all the way along here of breaking waves, and they stretch all the way across like so. Now we've just been through one of them. The waves get much bigger and they break. This one doesn't look quite as bad as the previous one, but the previous one sort of coincided with a huge trench where the depth drops from 50 odd meters down to 150 or so according to the charts. We're reading 190 odd meters now. It's actually the first time the depth sounder has given us a reading over 100 meters. So, but yeah, we're about to approach this second one, so I'll just record it for you. And interested to know if any of you have any idea what is causing this. So I don't know how much of that you can see, but it's it's kind of like eddies, I suppose, overfalls we call them. I guess where the movement of the water underneath is going against the movement of the water above due to the wind and the tide, I suppose. But funny that there are two distinct lines in this patch of sea where this is evident. So the waves get bigger and the crests just start breaking on top. Always difficult on the camera to get any idea of perspective, but here we are on the windward side, and yeah, the swell has suddenly increased to, who knows, metre and a half, maybe 2 meters, whereas previously though it was only about a metre. Oh, and by the way, I got round to putting the preventer on the mizzen in the end, just to keep that from flapping. As you can see, the Esper's moving around quite a bit, so that was knocking backwards and forwards, and just gives the boat a bit more stability. And so there we go, as quick as they arrived, they've disappeared. Sea state's calmed down, no more breaking waves. Strange, eh?
"12 hours now we've been sailing, and it's been fairly straightforward. A few big waves, not a tremendous amount of wind, 10 to 15 knots, up to 20 at one stage. Quite flat now as the sun's going down. It's been fine, considering that I was a little bit anxious. Feeling nice and relaxed now, gazing out at the sea. Haven't seen any fish or dolphins or anything. Keep looking. And generally it's been quite quiet, so I think it's time for some supper. I might go below and do something with the curry.
Well, it always takes a day or so to get into the swing of things, and as Liz says, you know, that's that sort of slight apprehension that you have before you set off on a big journey, and I can safely say now that I feel like I've sort of settled into a rhythm. And what's really nice and quite unusual for us, having spent all this time in Malaysia and Thailand, is the lack of boats out at sea here. We passed one tanker much earlier on when we were still within sight of Phuket actually, and he passed us very close by, coming from north to south. Aside from that, that is all we have seen the whole day. We have just heard some silly person on the VHF making funny noises, and this is quite normal when you pass through the big ships in the shipping lanes. The crew on these boats get very bored and they get hold of the VHF and say silly things that actually can be quite amusing. But of course this contravenes international collision regulations. Very naughty. But apart from that, it's just been us, Esper, Millie, who's been sleeping all day. Just this really nice, gentle, smooth motion. We're doing about 3 to 4 knots, which, I mean, in what, 8 knots of wind is not bad. And yeah, looking forward to that curry. day 2 of our crossing over to Sabang, and it's a little bit rolly today. The wind has come around a little bit, so it is right up our arse. I wish I'd fixed this bloody spinnaker pole, you know. It's a bit daft because the wind's too strong to put up the spinnaker. It's not the right angle for the code 0. And without this pole, it means that any head sail we put out backs as we move sort of through the wind. So you can see here, I've actually just put out the staysail just for the moment, just to give a little bit of stability, but of course you can see it's backing right now. So one option of course is to actually alter course. The obvious course to take would be another sort of 30 degrees to port. The problem with that is it would actually put us beam on to these waves, and when we hit these funny patches of reverse tide or current, when it breaks, the swell's a good 2 meters or so. So I'm not really keen to do that. If we alter course the other way, that's actually putting us in the wrong direction. So anyway, look, we're just putting up with it. It's not that bad. It's just occasionally you get that rogue wave, and Esper's really doing this. But aside from that, it's actually really quite pleasant. And we've got, I think we've got about 2 knots of current taking us as well. So even if we were to put the sails away, we'd still get there. So it's all good. We're above the clanking of the halyards in the mast. You might be able to hear in the background the wind as we go down these waves. You hear the wind pick up and slow down. The reason why I'm showing you the mizzen is because I've actually put the mizzen right out, and it's this that's actually driving us. So effectively we're being pushed, not pulled, by the head sail. This obviously is also adding to that movement that I was talking about a moment ago. But it works quite well because the sail isn't backing at all. I've prevented it, put a preventer on, it's right out, and it's doing a really good job. I should add, by the way, that we don't actually want to go any faster, because if we do, we'll end up turning up at Sabang in the evening, or rather the middle of the night, and that's something I want to avoid. New places, if I can, I'd like to try and come in during the daytime. Of course, one of the advantages with the ketch is to have all these different sails to choose from. So really it's a bit of an experiment. Yesterday we had the head sail out, the wind was just off the backside, so I was able to keep it filled up, but this morning, as I said, the wind is right behind, so that's why I've been experimenting with this mizzen. And it's doing a good job. So we've got about 15 knots of true wind, I suppose, and quite a bit of current running with us. And we keep hitting 5 knots, and at this rate we're going to end up in Sabang in the dark. By the way, this is our gimbal at work with this rolling sea. This is the first time we've actually taken it out of its locked position, and look at this. This is pretty impressive. I'm very happy with that. So here we are down below at night on day 2 of our crossing, and as you can see we've got here a split screen. We've got the chart and we've got the radar on the right, and they're pretty much displaying the same thing, although of course obviously the radar has the radar patterns on it, and you can see that it correlates to the targets that we have on the chart itself. We just had a little bit of a scare because this guy here was coming on to us as a sort of head on, so just radioed through just to make sure that he could see us. And the good news is that they can see us on AIS, which is great, and he even altered course for us as well, so he's going behind us. It's quite busy now because this is this is where the boats come in and out of the Malacca Strait, and they come around the headland, around the cape I suppose, and of course we're going straight through the middle of it. But as you should do, we are coming in at 90 degrees, so it's the quickest way of exiting this busy motorway. So as Liz brings us off the Malacca Strait, as it were, into the morning, our last night watch through what ended up being quite a busy experience. I think between us we had to call through to at least 4 boats to discuss manoeuvring, and we have now caught sight of land of Indonesia. Feeling very tired. It always takes 2 to 3 days to get comfortable into the rhythm of you know, long crossings, and of course we've only done 2 nights, so today we would have started to have got used to the routine, but up until now it's been fitful sleeps and pretty much sailing all the way, which was great, but it was, you know, quite rolly because we had that wind behind us. But it's just nice to be able to catch sight of land just over there. So our destination, depending on how hard we sail, is about 4 or 5 hours away. Still quite a few ships on the horizon, but we're sort of clear of most of that traffic now, which is great. Clouds forming, great big cloud here, possible rain, who knows, and we have been seeing lightning as well, and again this is normal. We are now, of course, entering into the Ring of Fire, and when we last came through this part 4 or 5 years ago, it's one of the first things we spotted was lots and lots of lightning all the way down the Indonesian coast. So anyway, I think it's time to freshen up, feeling rather grubby, have some coffee, and just enjoy the last of this sail against this continually strong tide as well. It hit 2.2 knots, this current, constant current behind us, and occasionally it would swing round, but so we have that with us as well to help us along.
2 days of sailing, 2 nights of sailing, and we're arriving right now in Sabang. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, had showers, feel all refreshed, a little bit sleepy, but really looking forward to seeing Indonesia and checking in just one moment. Jamie, how do you feel?
Yeah, now that we've spotted not just land but actually see detail on land, it's very exciting because this is completely new, and that's what it's all about. It's discovering new places. So obviously we've got to deal with customs and all the formalities that go with that. Feeling rather tired and exhausted from a very interesting journey, but other than that, just now the adventure begins. So here we are in Sabang, just dropped the hook, and as we were doing so, the harbour master radioed through on channel 16 to say get the dinghy ready, they'll be ready to come over in an hour. So I figured I'd probably go and pick them up from the little floating jetty just over there. Harbour master's office right next door to that, so that's all good. Thanks for watching our new series of Follow the Boat episodes. We're going to be taking you to some pretty special places, to locations that very few sailboats manage to get to. So stay tuned. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and if you like the episode, hit that like button and also share it as well. If you want to go one step further in supporting us, then don't forget we have a shop. Just go to followtheboat.com/shop. We've got loads of funky fresh merchandise there, some great t-shirts, bags, mugs and so on. And if you'd like to support us financially, then don't forget we have our rum fund where you can make a one-off donation or consider becoming a Patreon and get loads of benefits. Thank you very much for watching. Look forward to catching up with you in the next episode. Peace and fair winds.